This is your boy DJ Leon D. I'm back, and I'm here to talk about something, family, that's been bothering me. A lot of you don't know what kind of meat to buy when it comes to beef. Well, I'm going to tell you how beef is done, how it's sold, and kind of who has what. Because a lot of you thinking that beef is beef. Nah, hell no. You can taste the difference in beef. So I don't want a lot of you out there buying something and really getting, not necessarily getting ripped off. If you get ripped off because you're dumb as hell, I mean, things happen, But I don't want you thinking that you got something you don't have. My whole point of this is that when, this whole year, this barbecue season, which I normally start in late March, and I generally go up until October, November, maybe, but I just want you to know what you're buying when it comes to beef. Because a lot of you don't really know what you're buying. You look at prices and you think, okay, beef is beef. No, hell no. Let me tell you how beef works. Beef comes in four different grades. Four different grades. You got your prime, your choice, and your select, and your standard. And on any beef package, it should say USDA and one of those grades. Prime, choice, select, and standard. Well, it's going to say one of the three grades. It's not going to say the fourth grade. And I'm going to tell you why. See, when people cut meat, they give the best choices always to the high-end restaurants. They're going to have the best choices, okay? The worst pieces of beef is going to be called ground beef. It's going to be ground beef, okay? Now, let's talk about how beef is graded. Because 99% of you don't know, don't care. You see a price per pound and you get it. But sometimes that price per pound is misleading. Or not so much misleading, but it's don't equal the grade you're going to get. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. Now, like I was saying, the USDA grades beef, and it's primarily graded on two things. The marbling, which is the intramuscular fat, and the maturity of the animal. Okay, that's how it's graded. Now, let's talk about the first one, prime. Prime has the highest degree of marbling and is produced from young, well-fed cattle. And the marbling is what gives you that taste. It's what gives you that nice tenderness. And prime is incredibly tender, juicy, and flavorful. It's great for dry heat cooking methods like grilling or broiling. Because it is a better quality, only the high-end steakhouses and butcher shops get that, okay? Less than 10% of all beef in America is prime. Now, people tell you that, and people fall for it. Now, let me tell you something about prime. I get some of my prime from Costco. Yes, Costco will have prime beef in there all the time. But not like they used to, because Costco has a price point that baffles some people, because versus going over that price point, they reduce the quality of some things. And when I say that, you may go into Costco one day, and if they say this ground beef is going to be $3.99 a pound, they're going to get a grade that fits $3.99 a pound. They're not going to give you a superior grade that they know is going to cost $5.99 a pound, because they know the customer and the clients aren't gonna buy that. They know that already. You look and you say, I only got 3 pounds of beef. I'm not spending $15 or $16. But you look and say, I got 3 pounds of beef, and guess what? It is a select grade. You may buy that because to you, it's beef. But then you get home and you cook it. You wanna know why that big old that big old hamburger that was as big as a pancake, you want to know why when you finish it looked like a slider, because you bought an inferior part of the cow. It is what it is. So prime is the top notch, the best you're gonna get. You can't get, but that's less than 10% of all the beef in America. It's great about USDA. It's 10%. So majority of the cow is less than 90%, 89% are not going to be prime. No. And I just told you who buys when you go to Peter Luger and some Ruth Chris, they get their prime cut, but they're willing to pay top dollar for it and sell it to you for top dollar. And the markup is ridiculous. Now, the second one that you should look at a label is choice beef has less marbling than prime. We already know that, but it's still a very high quality meat. It has great flavor and tenderness, and it is the most common grade sold in standard supermarkets. I say it, standard supermarkets. Ribeye and sirloin are normally choice. Now, when I get prime, I get my tomahawks. I do get a couple of primes out of that, but it's hard to find a tomahawk and prime, as a prime grade, because most tomahawks are choice because they are just a part of the ribeye. Sirloin, but that's great if you're going to grill or roast. Those kind of things are excellent for that. So choice is what you see in Costco. Choice is what you're going to see in like some Kroger's, some Albertsons, Publix. They got choice. That's what you're going to see there because they want to give you a good quality, but also at a decent price. But here's the funny thing about choice and prime. I have been places where, now I'm talking about per pound, where the choice costs more than the prime did. And that should not be the case. But I have seen when stores, and sometimes they'll have a sale on, like, we got to get rid of this prime meat by tomorrow, so we got to lower the price. So everybody's a little bit different. But every now and then, you will find choice costing more per pound than prime. Not a better cut of meat, but they got a reason to price it that way because they got to get the heck out of there. Because if not, then they don't want to be saddled with their meat that they just can't sell, and the meat goes bad. Now the third choice, the third grade, is called USDA Select. Yep, that meat is you can notice it's leaner than choice. It's leaner than choice or prime. In other words, it has less marbling in it because it don't have the muscle fat that makes the meat moisture and flavorful. It don't have that moisture and the flavor. It has less of that because it don't have the muscle fat. It is not as tender as choice or prime, and it is best used for moist heat methods like braising and marinating. That when you braise and marinate it never dries out. So you're gonna have tenderness, but it don't dries out. But the people who buy USDA Select, they're always budget conscious. They're the ones that you're gonna see in Sam's Club, Walmart. You're gonna see in Little, Aldi. You're gonna get USDA Select. You're not getting prime or choice in those kind of stores. So don't even expect that. You're not getting that. Costco very seldom has anything below choice. But Select, which is the third grade, and some people call it the lowest grade. And I'm going to tell you why they call it the lowest grade in a second. But some people call it the lowest grade, and you're going to find it in the low-end stores. Food Lion, Sam's Club. Sam's Club, it runs rampant there. Walmart, Little, Aldi. You're going to find it in those kind of stores. Piggly Wiggly, that's all they're going to have. It's all Piggly Wiggly, it's all they're going to have. Now, when Dixie, we give some choice cuts of time because they care about volume. They care about volume. They want to get a lot of meat in and a lot of meat out. They are not going to be into the quality world. I'm not saying that food is not USDA inspected. Yeah, I kind of am. Now, they still got to inspect it. But you ain't going to have your top-notch USDA guy looking at Select meat. He's looking at prime because he knows he can't afford it, but he damn sure can look at it and tell you the grade of it. Yeah, that's kind of how that works. Now, there's a fourth one that people don't talk about. I'm going to tell you why they don't talk about it. It's called USDA Standard. USDA Standard beef is beef that is none of the top three. It's not prime, it's not choice, it's not select. In other words, it's the worst cut of beef you're going to ever see. But I'm going to tell you though, that is strictly meat that they make into hamburger. Yeah, it becomes ground beef. Yeah. You don't see ground beef with a USDA standard on it. No. You're going to see a store brand. Yeah, you're going to see Maker's Mark. You're going to see a store brand. Kirkland. You're going to see a store brand on that beef because, in other words, that beef didn't make it to the big boys. That beef did not make it to the big boys. That's that old ass cow. That's that 40-year-old cow. Where prime is that, 9-month cow. Young, grass-fed or whatever. Well, they use the word well-fed, which means it could be any damn thing. Who knows? It could be humans in there. But, because I've known that cows ate a couple Mexicans crossing the border. And so they probably got sold as prime because they probably got plumped up overnight. But it has almost no marbling because it's just lean meat. Lean meat is not a great meat. It's not a great cut. Some people like lean and say, oh, it's great. No. You got to have some marbling. You got to have a little fat. You got to have a little muscle in it because that's what's going to break down and make it feel juicy and tender. And they don't sell that as premium steak cuts. They just make ground beef out of it. They make ground beef, and that's why ground beef, a lot of times people say, oh, it's 85-15, it's 80-20. What that means is that's the meat to the fat ratio. That's what that means. And ground beef, in general, don't have a lot of fat because it's the stuff that don't have a lot of marbling in it. Now, if it's got a lot of fat, it's because the manufacturer decided to throw in some fat from somewhere else. But let me tell you something else about beef that a lot of people don't know. If you buy beef, you want to buy beef on the bone, and there's a reason for that. If you buy beef and there's a bone there, that bone was cut from that bone, and all that meat around it was cut from the same animal. Ground beef, man, they mix and match. They got all kind of problems. They mix and match from anything left over from any cow. It can be a cow 80 miles away, 300 miles away. They just make it ground beef. So, but if it's got a bone, it came from the same animal. That's the one thing I do like. And you know what that means? You don't spread diseases the way you do in other type of meat, like chicken breast and other stuff, But if you see a bone, it came from all that meat in that package came from one animal, because you're not going to see a sirloin mixed with ground beef in the same damn package. I know some of you buy it that way, but they don't make it that way. When you get it that way, you done did some funny stuff to it. So when it comes to ground beef, you just gotta hope for the best. That's why they have these outbreaks, and people say, well, I got an outbreak of E. coli. Because you got meat from 80 different animals and they got cross-contaminated, and they're in one package called ground beef. Steaks aren't like that. If you get a steak with without a bone, and it's not a filet mignon, you already got a problem. You are eating a problem. And your body's going to tell you about it in the next 20, 30 minutes. At the most 1 hour. You got a problem, and that is just, when you go out to buy meat, I'm trying to help you how to buy your beef. I'm going to do one on pork later, but I'm trying to help you how to do one on beef. But at the same time, when you have company, when I have company, I buy a lot of choice beef because I've been cooking a lot of beef this whole summer. I buy choice. My family, I buy prime. I don't buy select, period. I don't care what the price is. I don't buy select, period. Because I want my family, and I got a few friends, I will buy prime for them. I got a few friends, I will do that for them in a heartbeat. Not many at all. But I got a few. Because they are not prime worthy. No. They're not prime worthy at all. They are choice worthy. And I don't buy select for nobody. I just don't buy select. I don't buy the lowest grade, the second lowest grade for anybody. Everything I buy is prime or choice, and you go to a butcher house, you're going to get prime most of the time. But butcher houses do. But when you go to a lot of these meat companies and you buy it directly from them, and they cut the cow, blah, 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 they do all that stuff in front of you, you're not getting prime. If you do, you're going to know if you're getting prime because the price is going to be prime. It's going to be a prime time price. So you're getting prime. But always ask a butcher, what grade is this? And they'll tell you. You know, you can even go to Costco or Sam's Club and you ask them, they'll tell you. They can't lie to you because the price is going to tell you the truth too. Unless you get Prime, and then if you get in Prime, they're going to let you know you got Prime when you walk in the door. We only sell Prime cuts, you know, graded Prime. Don't say we got Prime meat. No, what's the grade of the meat? What's the grade? Don't go there and let them talk to you like you're an idiot. And you can say them, hey, DJ Leon told me I expect to get Prime, Choice, and Select. I don't know any restaurant that serves standard unless it's on a hamburger. The hamburger is going to be standard. I don't, you know, unless you're doing it yourself, where you're, you know, you got your own machine and you're making your own hamburgers, you're getting standard. You're getting the bottom of the barrel meats, because any meat with value, or they're going to have the highest value is going to high-end restaurants. The lowest value is going to Olive Garden, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Chipotle. That's where the lowest cut of beef is going. And Mexican restaurants. That's where the lowest, they're going to always get the lowest cut, because they're about just getting some meat and being able to make a max amount of profits on that particular meat as they can. And you don't go to a Mexican restaurant and you ask them, do y'all serve prime beef? Yes, we serve prime beef. Whatever you get is prime, because they are going to give you the same thing, and they know you don't know the difference between prime and non-prime. Because guess what? When you go to a Mexican restaurant, the food they serve very seldom got fat in it. When it comes to tacos and nachos and all that, they ain't got no fat in it. The ground beef got just a little bit. So now you know why some restaurants, the high-end restaurants, charge a lot more than your mom and pop, Olive Garden, Outback. That's why they charge what they charge, because they're giving you certain grades of meat. But feel free to ask, because you may not be getting that grade of meat you think you're going to get. You may not be getting that, you know. But I know for a fact, anybody who sells Prime, they're going to advertise it in all their advertisements. They're going to advertise it. If they don't advertise it, they're getting standard. And standard is going to be your store brands. Standard is going to be your store. Walmart is going to sit there and tell you, we giving you Prime. We give you Maker's Mark beef. They're telling you that because you're getting standard beef. You're getting the lowest of the low. But that's their clientele. But then again, if you go to some of these high-end butcher shops, they already paid a prime price for the prime cut. So they're going to give you the highest of the high. But they're also going to charge you. People say, butcher's charges a lot. They are getting the best cuts. And if you tell a butcher, can you get me some cheaper meats? No. Cheaper meats mean lower profit. He's not an idiot. And you can be one of the few ones to want that. Okay? So, be careful on what you pick to buy. And sometimes you can't look at price per pound, because, like I told you earlier, sometimes Choice costs more than Prime. It depends on the day of the week, the expiration date. It depends on a lot of different variables. And also depends on how smart you are, because they depend on you being stupid in a lot of places. And most of you are. I mean, you know, it is what it is. And now a lot of you going to say, I never knew all this information that DJ Leon just gave me. No, you didn't. But I went to your house and I hear you brag about things. And now you know why my meat tastes better than your meat when it comes to beef. Because I buy better quality. Now, you can too. But don't think I woke up knowing this. No. Me and a buddy both had the same meats, and his tasted a little more juicier than mine when I cooked both of them. And now I know why he brought his own steaks with him. Because he was eating Prime over there, and yet I was eating Choice, and said, here's a little bit more tender and juicier. It was the same cut of steak, but he got it from a different store, and the packaging said Prime. Mine said Choice. My other buddy said, take a chance and eat it. Good luck. And I said, well, he got a whole different brand over there. He got it from Walmart. And he's bragging, I only paid 89 cents a pound for this tomahawk. I'm thinking, I paid $7.99. My buddy, we paid $8.99. But then I realized that, okay, he got a different cut of meat, because he said, I dare you to eat me. You know, I'm like, okay, that's not me. I'm not going to be involved in all that, because that meat looks like it's a different color, you know, because it was dry. You know, standard dries out faster because there's no muscles in it. There's very, very little. And I noticed mine was red a week later. And not only that, when I freeze dried it, it stayed that way for 6 months and still looked red when I took it out of the package. His hair went from a grayish to almost a black meat in the same amount of time. We did a test. We said, going forward, what kind of beef should we buy? And now we know what kind we should buy, but definitely not the kind he bought. So at the same time, I tell everybody, you get what you pay for, but just take a chance and just say, you know what, let me just try this top of the line brand and let me try this bottom of the line. So do your prime, your choice, select, and standard. Look at them, look at the price per pound, and you damn sure know what you're gonna get, especially in a butcher shop. This is your boy DJ Leon saying, I'm out, peace. This is what I think about beef and what you should know.